It's worth noting that in one of the forums for the lyrics, one of the comments said, I bet you Molly told the police about it just so she could get the bike. Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Audiophiles. Right. My name's John. His name is Andy. Sunrise, wrong side of another day. Sky high and 6,000 miles away. Don't know how long I've been awake. Wound up in an amazing state. More on that later. But first, because it's Friday, yes, it is, we have a song to listen to, which is being selected by one of our wonderful viewers. In this instance, that said viewer is Terry Sutton, 8452. Hut, hut, hut. And he dropped a comment on the Royal Alberta Advantage episode, brother, and suggested Richard Thompson, 1952, Vincent Black Lightning. I have heard this song before. So it is Andy who will be buttoning up his ear holes for this one. Do you know of Richard Thompson at all,
I think
Andy?
I think I've heard the name before, but I'm
You
not.
have.
Yeah. I'm not familiar with any of his music, so to speak. So no, outside of just knowing that the man exists and that he writes songs, that's really all I think I've got to work with.
He has appeared on this channel before. More on that later.
Yeah, okay. I have a haunting suspicion. But okay, all right.
Yes,
Um,
he was one of the Ting Tings.
yeah,
Um,
it always goes back to the Ting Tings, doesn't
yeah.
it? And with a name like Richard Thompson, it sounded like it would fit one of those voices that I heard in the Ting Tings as well. So, um, well, let me ride off and give 1952 Vincent Black Lightning a listen, and I will come back and let you know what I've made of it. That's beautiful, beautiful acoustic guitar work. And I just want to take that back and kind of let it wash over me all over again. Oh my God, that's some fine picking.
Oh, says Red Molly to James, that's a fine motorbike. A girl could feel special on any such like. Says James to Red Molly, my hat's off to you. It's a Vincent Black Lightning 1952. And I've seen you at the corners and cafes, it seems. Red hair and black leather, my favorite color scheme. And he pulled her on behind and down to Box Hill they did ride.
Okay, so we've got this, obviously, as stated before, gorgeous acoustic guitar. The picking and the trills and the hammers and pulls and all of that. These amazing, sounds lovely. And then you got this interesting narrative over top of it where there's this James and Molly that are interacting with each other, and she compliments his bike, and that's probably a good way to his heart, I would imagine. This bike seems like a point of pride for him. And her name Red Molly, I think is what they're calling her in here. And he says the red hair and the black leather. That's my favorite color scheme. That was a good line. Yeah, it's kind of sweet sounding, and by kinda I mean really, but not like that. Not like saccharine sweet, like it's over the top, like you're gonna walk away with type 2 after listening to it. It's just, I don't know. It feels good to the soul to hear this. I don't know what it is, but yeah, let's see where it goes.
Oh, says James to Red Molly, is a ring for your right hand. But I tell you in earnest, I'm a dangerous man. For I fought with the law since I was 17. I robbed many a man to get my Vincent machine. Now I'm 21 years, I might make 22. And I don't mind dying, but for the love of you. And if fate should break my stride, then I give you my Vincent to ride.
All right, so he's had his issues with the law, and he's being pretty candid with her about that. That's good. That's a good thing to do up front. Although he says he was started when he was 17, and he was like, what, 21 or 22 years old. You can always change your life. The right girl, throw that life behind you and invest it in her. But it is sweet. He tells her that if anything should befall him, he will leave her the keys to the Vincent. That's really sweet. Damn.
Come down, Red Molly, called Sergeant McRae. For they've taken a young James A.D. for armed robbery. Shotgun blast hit his chest, left nothing inside. Oh, come down, Red Molly, to his dying bedside.
Oh.
When she came to the hospital, there wasn't much left. He was running out of a road, he was running out of breath. But I smiled to see her cry. I said, I'll give you my Vincent to ride.
He foretold his own future in the earlier verse, right? Here he was up to some nefarious, no good deeds outside the limits of the law, and it caught up with him. But damn, a shotgun blast? That's serious. Yeah, that'll definitely take you out. I thought it was cute how he said, I ran out of road, or he ran out of road, he ran out of breath. I think that I call it ran out of road. Fitting kind of, metaphor for running out of life, considering this whole thing is centered around a motorcycle. Running out of road, running out of life. Totally checks out, makes sense. Oh, James, you knucklehead.
Says James, in my opinion, there's nothing in this world beats a 52 Vincent and a red-headed girl. Now Nortons and Indians and Grievases won't do. They don't have a soul like a Vincent 52. Oh, you reached for a hand and he slipped her the keys. Said, I've got no further use for these. I see angels and aerials in leather and chrome, swooping down from heaven to carry me home. And and he gave her one last kiss and died. And he gave her his Vincent to ride.
Oh, what a sweet but tragic little tale there. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Those flourishes in the breaks between the verses on the guitar were just stellar there, and he sort of does it a bit there at the end too before it winds its way down. Yeah, I really thoroughly enjoyed this song. It was very, I mean, it wasn't simple in, I'm not suggesting that the guitar work on this is simple, but it's simple in that it's a guitar and it's a story. And as sweet as the lyrics were, so were the notes on the guitar and how it was played. They went really well together. I love these kind of linear stories lyrically, right? That you can just follow from start to finish, and they tell this whole, in this case, sort of tragic love tale, in a really succinct, clear manner that delivers every bit of information you need. And when you're done listening to it, you're like, damn, it's a short story, and it's likely fictional. Uh, and even still, even if it weren't, and this is clearly, I'm detached from it, and yet it still resonates with you, and it's really sweet. The gesture of him making good on his word, although he kind of foretold his own fate earlier. Maybe if he hadn't mentioned anything, it would never have happened. But it was sweet how he kind of foreshadowed what might occur, and then he made good on that word, and on his deathbed gave her the keys to the bike. Yeah, sad, tragic, sweet, all of those things. And a really, really pretty song overall that I had a lot of, I really enjoyed listening to this. I did. It was a great recommendation. Um, let's get back to John, because I'd really love to learn more about this Richard Thompson, this song, what inspired it, and if this is kind of how he is as a songwriter, because he's certainly a great storyteller and a hell of a picker. So I would happily listen to this again. I wonder if there's anything else in his catalog maybe akin to this or just as good. But yeah, I really liked this one a lot. All right, let's get back to John.
Itchy Park, he's back. So, you've had a ride in the old 1952 Vincent Black Lightning by Richard Thompson. What do you think?
I don't have a lot of notes because I don't think the listening experience really required a lot of me jotting down every single move that happened within the song. It was another one of those classic man and his guitar type songs, or person in their guitar type songs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't want any of that, what I just said, to be any sort of indicator or suggest that there shouldn't be a lot that can be said about this song, because it was really beautiful. The guitar work in this song was fabulous. I mean, the picking was insane. It was so good that at points you wondered how many guitars were playing. That's how much sound was being produced from all of this finger work, both not only in how it was being picked, but also in how it was being played on the neck as well. You had hammers and hammer-ons and trills and all of this really great stuff happening. And this really pretty, kind of sad, tragic story that went along with it, which is, kind of what, at the root of it, it doesn't have to be, but oftentimes acoustic guitar music lends itself to this kind of story, or these narratives that are point A, point B, and they get you there. You know what I mean? In between just vocal or lyrically, it just tells you the story. Everything kind of unravels. Um, Gorgeous guitar work. And then he begins to sing the story of a lawless man named James, his motorbike, and a red-headed woman named Molly, who seemingly charms him while she is charmed by the bike itself. And that's what drums up their sort of dialogue. Uh, and he takes her for a ride, and this was a lot. There was a lot of interesting bits. First of all, like interesting little lines. He says something to the effect of red hair and black leather, my favorite color scheme, I think at one point, which is a lovely little line. As we find out that she's often referenced as Red Molly and has this red hair. James lives outside the law and has for a few years now, as I think it's so funny because the way he delivered the line, you'd make you think that he's been outside the law for 20 some years at least. He's like, I've been living outside the law since I was 17. And then you come to find out he's like pushing 22. It's like, dude, you could change. You just found a really nice girl who shares some of your common interests. Maybe this is an indicator from on high that you should change your ways. But no, instead he basically convinces her to stick around despite his ways. And if anything should happen to him, his life insurance policy is basically the motorcycle. Which is kind of sweet because like that's what drummed up the conversation between them, right? But lo and behold, he gets in trouble while committing a crime. This guy totally foreshadows his whole fate. Right? You know what I mean? He promises her the bike if anything happens to him. Then the next verse he gets
just perhaps,
maybe
perhaps.
this will happen. You know, I say all this jokingly. It is a really sweet song, and I can see how this would really pull your heartstrings. But I'm being kind of a shit when I laugh at the humor behind it all, where it's just like the next verse, shotgun blast to the chest. The cop calls her, "Oh my God, get down here," or whatever. And he's on his deathbed, of course. I loved the line, he ran out of road as he ran out of breath. When the whole thing centered around, this mode of transportation, this motorcycle. So it's a perfect little, metaphor for the situation that old James finds himself in. Old James, I should say fucking young James. I mean, James is barely able to drink in my country, and all of this he's thrown away. So yeah, he leaves her the keys to the bike and goes off to the big motorcycle rally in the sky. And every time there's like a break between these verses or these stanzas of like dialogue and narrative, there's these beautiful guitar flourishes that are just so clean, and you can hear every note and string being scratched against. And it's that fucking acoustic thing that we both love. This thing has it in spades, you know what I mean? And when he delivers the last stanza, where he gave her one last kiss and died, and he gave her the Vincent a ride, it does that guitar, another one of these like let the guitar shine as it kind of brings itself to an end. And yeah, I really loved the song. It was sweet, all jokes aside, which there are to be made. They're there to be made. It is a really sweet song, and it's not one of those overly saccharine, you listen to it and then you walk away with type 2 diabetes. It's just enough for not to be too over the top. And I could see how this would really resonate with a lot of people. It did with me. So yeah, I thought it was a beautiful song, excellent guitar work, kind of straddled between like some of the old like picking legends of bluegrass here, as well as had this kind of shades of I don't know if you might not agree with this. You might not listen to him very much. I know you're very much earlier Fleetwood than later, but Lindsey Buckingham was a hell of a guitar picker himself. And this had shades of Lindsey Buckingham style about it. So that was one of the first artists that sort of came to mind when I listened to this. But yeah, I really, really did enjoy this song a lot. So it was a great shout. And I'm sure I'll listen to it again. I'd love to know a little bit. I don't know if you have this information. A little bit about what inspired the narrative, is if it's completely fictional, if it was inspired by anything that may have happened, whether in the news or with a celebrity, or I don't know. And also, is this like emblematic of the kind of music that Richard Thompson writes on the regular? This kind of like folksy, storyteller kind of music.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll get into that. Yeah, before I do, I'll just give you my opinion for what it's worth on this song. I think on a good day, I think this is a really charming song. There's no question of his virtuosity on the guitar
Yeah.
is supreme. There's a couple of other guys I can think of that when they're picking like that, it sounds like beautiful rainfall of
Yeah, yeah,
notes.
yeah.
It's just total showering you. And there's others that can do it as well, one of which he played with, which I'll get into in a sec. Yeah, it's just great. I think sometimes when it's not such a great day, I find this on a par with Leader of the Pack. Sometimes it's like a little bit sort of, too much. And he does affect a bit of the Irish in his voice in this, which doesn't really need it, but it's one of those things that folk singers, particularly in this country, did take little affectations, and sometimes they put a bit of Irish in their voice without, I think, even knowing it. And they got the hen, hen, ho, that sort of stuff as well, which, the Coen Brothers film, what was it called? I can't remember what it's called now, but the woman that sort of starred Isaac Thingy Bobby as a folk singer, that just sent it up brilliantly as well, in a very loving way. So yeah, but that's only on a bad day when I'm feeling particularly sort of, grumpy.
Yeah.
But it's a lovely song, and it tells a story in that great sort of tradition of ballads,
Mhm.
no chorus, it's just this is what happens, and interspersed with some musicianship, which really takes your breath away. And that's just, you couldn't ask for any more.
Yep.
So I think this is a great, great song.
Mhm.
And we're not the only two to think that.
I had a
So Richard
feeling that this
Thompson.
had like this really resonated with the masses. I could totally see that. Yeah.
So Richard Thompson was born in Notting Hill, which is in London. In 19 people who've seen that horrible film probably know. In 1949, he is an English singer, songwriter, and guitarist, and he is known for his work in folk and folk rock.
Mm.
His father, interestingly, was a Scottish man, not Irish, and he was a Scotland Yard detective
Oh wow.
and an amateur guitar player, and several other family members have played music professionally. While attending William Ellis School in Highgate, which is in London, he formed his first band, Emile and the Detectives, which is named after a book and a movie by the same title, with classmate Hugh Cornwall, later lead singer and guitarist of the Stranglers, on bass guitar. At the age of 18, Thompson co-founded folk rock group Fairport Convention, who we have had on the channel. Largely on the strength of Thompson's playing, producer Joe Boyd, whose name has come up a number of times, he was a folk producer. He produced Nick Drake's first couple of albums. He also produced REM's third album. So he's cropped up quite a bit. Yeah, he took Fairport Convention under his wing, and he signed them to his Witch Season production and management company. Boyd said, and there's this group of very nice Muswell Hill grammar school boys and a girl playing American music. Leonard Cohen songs and Richard Farina songs and Bob Dylan songs, all being done in a kind of West Coasty rock style. And then came the guitar solo, and Richard just played the most amazing solo. He played a solo which quotes from Django, from Charlie Christian, an incredibly sophisticated little solo. And that really amazed me, the breadth of his sophistication. And so, at the end of the gig, I was in the dressing room saying, would you guys like to make a record? That's how it began with Fairport Convention. After the band finished in 71, Thompson released his debut solo album, Henry the Human Fly, in 72. The next year, he actually formed a duo with his wife, Linda Thompson, which produced 6 albums. There's a lot to Richard Thompson's career and life, and I won't go into every bit of it. There's lots of interesting stuff that I won't even touch on. Please feel free to drop interesting factoids about Richard Thompson in the comments. I'd be love to hear from them. So after the sort of dissolution of the duo, Thompson revived his solo career. He had semi-retired for a while, and then came back with Hand of Kindness in '83. He has released 18 solo studio albums. 3 of his albums, Rumor and Sigh, 91, You, Me, Us, in 96, and Dreamatic in 2010 have all been nominated for Grammy Awards. And amazingly, the album Still from 2015 was his first UK top 10 album.
Wow.
So cult figure, much loved, but commercial success, not quite. We've said this a lot about people that are featured on this channel. So, no surprise there. This song is from the aforementioned 1991 album Rumor and Sigh. Although it was not released as a single, it has become a real fan favourite. Now, the song obviously focuses on the motorcycle, Vincent Black Lightning. So a little bit about that, just as background. The motorcycle was first built in September 1948 at the Vincent Works in Stevenage, UK, and it was produced from 1948 to 1952. The bike was a purpose-built, factory-modified Black Shadow that was then named and produced as the Black Lightning. At the time, the Black Lightning was the fastest production motorcycle in the world. Only 31 Black Lightnings were built before production ended in '52 because of Vincent's financial problems.
Jesus.
On 13th of September 1948, Roley Free, that's his name, achieved the US National Motorcycle Speed Record at the Bonneville Salt Flats in Utah, famous for that area, by riding the first ever Vincent Black Lightning. During test runs, Free averaged speeds of 148.6 miles an hour. To reduce the drag, he stripped to his swimming shorts for the final run, which he made lying flat with his legs stretched out behind him and his head low.
Yeah.
And he guided the Vincent by following a black stripe painted in the salt bed. The stunt worked as Free covered the mile in 23.9 seconds, passing 150 miles an hour, and on the return he reached a record average speed of 150.313 miles an hour. This led to one of the most famous photographs in motorcycle history, known as the bathing suit bike. In February 2018, during an auction held by Bonhams in Las Vegas, a Black Lightning, stated to be only one of 19 that's still surviving, set a world record for the highest price paid at auction for a motorcycle of $929,000 US, 1.16 million Australian dollars. The machine was used to set a national speed record in Australia in 1953 and was purchased by an undisclosed Australian. So there's your stuff about your bicycle, your motorbike.
Yeah.
While most cover versions of this song by different artists, and there's plenty, as you can imagine, remain with the original lyrics, listing those same makes of motorcycle that, quote, don't have a soul, like Vincent 52. Thompson himself often varies the makes in his live performances, and he variously includes the following makes: Triumph, Harley, Enfield, Douglas, Rudge, Matchless, and Ducati, of course. Interviewed in 2003, Thompson said, "When I was a kid, that was always the exotic bike. That was always the one that you went, oh, wow. I'd been looking for some English ideas that didn't sound corny, that had some romance to them, and around which you could pin a song. And this song started with a motorcycle. It started with the Vincent. It was a good lodestone around which the song could revolve." So yeah, he just wrote it out of his head. It's not based on anything, and it just put a doomed lover's tale tied into the bike.
Yeah,
Speaking of
oftentimes,
which,
I'm not saying it's unlikely for someone to create their own narrative. Of course there is, but there's always those great songs that have been like a couple little factoids have been pulled from the headlines or from some tale, and then you build the rest around that. You know what I mean? So I was curious if this was one of those. It's not, which really, I mean, that's clever to do that, but it's even better that he's always had this dream because he's always been kind of like obsessed with his bike since his boyhood, to kind of find a way to incorporate it into a song and to do it in such a way that really the crux of everything revolves around the bike. The relationship started and ended as like punctuated by the bike, really. You know what I mean? It's like it's what drummed up the conversation, and it's what he left her on the deathbed. It's what brought them together. Interesting. And I, you know, as you mentioned, if you're in a certain mood, you're not going to want to hear some shit like this. You know what I mean? But if you're not in a dark mood, there isn't a cloud of rain following you around independently throughout your day. This is enough to make you kind of like smile and think. You know, pull at your heartstrings a little bit even. So it doesn't come as much as a surprise that this was a big hit with people. Like this went over really well with folks.
Let's get into the lyrics then, very quickly. Says Red Molly to James, "Well, that's a fine motorbike. A girl could feel special on any such like." Said James to Red Molly, "My hat's off to you. It's a Vincent Black Lightning, 1952. And I've seen you on the corners and cafes, it seems. Red hair and black leather, my favourite colour scheme." And he pulled her on behind, and down to Box Hill they'd ride. Said James to Red Molly, "Here's a ring for your right hand, but I'll tell you in earnest, I'm a dangerous man. For I've fought with the law since I was 17. I've robbed many a man to get my Vincent machine. And now in 21 years, I might make 22. And I don't mind dying, but for the love of you. But if fate should break my stride, then I'll give you my Vincent to ride." Little extended guitar break. Come on down, Red Molly," called Sergeant McQuaid, "for they've taken young James 80 for armed robbery. Shotgun blast hit his chest, left nothing inside. Oh, come on down, Red Molly, to his dying bedside." When she came to the hospital, there wasn't much left. He was running out of road. He was running out of breath. But he smiled to see her cry and said, "I'll give you my Vincent to ride." Said James, "In my opinion, there's nothing in this world beats a 52 Vincent and a red-headed girl. Now Nortons and Indians and Greaveses won't do. Oh, they don't have a soul like a Vincent 52. Well, he reached for her hand and he slipped her the keys. He said, "I've got no further use for these. I see angels on aerials in leather chrome, swooping down from heaven to carry me home." And he gave her one last kiss and died. And he gave her his Vincent to ride. It's worth noting that in one of the forums for the lyrics, one of the comments said, "I bet you Molly told the police about it just so she could get the bike." That was really funny. Doesn't really getting involved in it. That woman. Yeah. Anyway. So yeah, music critic Neil McCormick described Thompson as a versatile virtuoso guitarist with a sharp, observational singer-songwriter whose work burns with intelligence and dark emotion. His songwriting has earned him an Ivor Novello Award and in 2006 a Lifetime Achievement Award from BBC Radio. His 1991 song, 1952 Vincent Black Lightning, was included in Time magazine's all-time 100 songs, a list of the most extraordinary English-language popular recordings since the beginning of Time magazine in 1923, praising it as a, quote, "glorious example of what one guy can accomplish with just a guitar, a voice, an imagination, and a set of astonishingly nimble fingers." Thompson was awarded Officer of the Order of the British Empire, OBE, in the 2011 New Year's Honours List for services to music. Now, as I said before, there's so much more we could cover with more time. His session work. He played on the first Nick Drake album as a session musician.
Wow.
So that fits in because obviously Joe Boyd was producing it. He's collaborated with loads of people, including a certain David Thomas and his band, The Pedestrians, that he had after Perubu.
Wow.
He's also collaborated with John Lydon, Michael Stipe, and loads of others. In the
It's really-
70s with Linda, they took a semi-retirement from music and went to live in a Sufi community. He was at that time, I think, believed still is a committed Muslim. He found faith, and so on and so on. There's loads of really interesting stuff about him, and I haven't even mentioned his stellar cover version of "Oops, I Did It Again," which is something to behold.
Really?
Yeah, oh, it's really good. He even gives a little speech at the start saying about, in the hands of this, what some might describe a crass performer, this song, but we can take it and shape it. And he even got some roots in the 16th century medieval music, and he plays a bit of it halfway through the song, this style of, it's just him and a woman on a drum kit, mainly hand drums, and then she does a bit of drumming during the actual sort of medieval bit,
Yeah.
and then it's back into that. Really good version, worth checking out.
That's really
I mean, that's really downplaying all the rest of the great stuff he's done. Fucking Britney cover, but anyway, it's still interesting.
yeah.
So yeah, okay. Well, I shall wrap things up. That's Mr. Thompson and his Vincent Black Lightning.
Yeah. I enjoyed this one. Stellar
Yeah,
guitar.
yeah, really impressive, isn't it? It really is. So yeah, thanks Terry for offering this up. This is a great suggestion. We both enjoyed listening to it again. And yeah, folks out there, tell us what you think. Did you enjoy this as well? I'm sure loads of you are very familiar with this song. So give us your factoids and your snippets and opinions. We'd love to hear from you. And anything else about Richard Thompson, sorry, and any other songs of his that we should listen to. Perhaps some stuff with Linda, I don't know, or solo stuff. Yeah, drop some comments. I'd love to hear from you. If you haven't subscribed already, please do, and help us bolster this channel until we can afford. No, we can't ever, even with.
Yeah, I'm gonna say.
No, we're never going to do that.
Ain't happening.
Impossible dream. But yeah, and if you're thinking how come they've done this song, and well, just drop a comment on any of the episodes. We'll add it to the list, and we will get around to it someday. But all that being said, thanks again so much for watching. I'll see all of you in the next episode of the Audiophiles.
See you later, guys.